So again, thank you for all of our panelists, our speakers, for a great breakout session. I'm going to pop forward now. All right, so welcome again. I'd like to introduce you to your moderator today, Ludwika from the U.S. Commercial Service, who will be taking care of just having this conversation in this panel today. I'm about to spotlight everyone, so take it away, Ludwika, and we'll stop screen sharing too.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, it's great to have you all with us. And I want to welcome our summit participants joining us from across the United States and across all tech verticals and industries to a conversation with two amazing women focused on venture capital and women entrepreneurs. And I'm Ludwika Alvarez with our commercial service office in San Francisco. And here I support American startups based here with international growth. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome two incredible women, Monica Dodi, partner at the 22 Fund, and Hannah Diop, founder and CEO of Sienna Naturals. And happy 2-year anniversary. We'll learn about that more. Really, congratulations, we're excited for you. And Hannah and Monica, welcome and thank you so much again for joining us. We really appreciate your time and your insights.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Could you briefly, for our audience, share your journeys from entrepreneur to investor and from consultant to founder with the audience?
Well, I'll go first. Age before beauty, to quote Bette Davis. Yeah, I would say that, my career started out as an operator. Both my parents immigrated to the United States and they were both entrepreneurs. So I guess I didn't really have a fear of failure relative to most people. So I was fortunate enough to have 4 successful startups under my belt. And I can get into more detail later if people are interested. But I joined up with SoftBank Venture Capital back in the early 2000s. And that's when I saw, or mid 2000s, that's when I saw the sheer lack of diversity in venture capital. And was really motivated to create first the Women's Venture Capital Fund and then join up with Tracy Gray and Rajan Kazetzi to create the 22 Fund to really focus on women and people of color, because they were largely overlooked by traditional venture capitalists. And I went to Harvard Business School and I had a lot in my section, ironically, a lot, for some reason, they were all in my section. And, but there was this sense that, there was a huge opportunity out there, a huge pure investment opportunity, return on investment, by really focusing on those that were maybe were different than, let's say, the traditional companies that VCs focus on. And in particular, there's been a lot of stats that, today there's, there's 2% of venture capital goes to women. And actually back then, about 10 years ago, when we first started, it was 4%. So actually, as far as journey for women entrepreneurs in general, it hasn't really improved. In fact, it's gone down by 50%. However, I was really encouraged by what Diane Farrell said this morning, and the fact that, women are starting businesses at 2 times the rate of men. So this seems like this is an ongoing trend, which is very, encouraging. And then as far as the 22 Fund, which is really encouraging, we focus on manufacturing because, we see that that's a real job creation engine, because we are holistic investors. We want to focus on investing in women and the people of color with very high potential, with growth potential, that need capital to expand overseas, to increase their exports. And so we see that the trends are pointing in our favor in terms of reshoring companies back to America so they're closer to their supply chains as a result of the pandemic. And then also the greening of America, because we really focus on clean tech, green tech, all the new innovation that's coming out there. And so I'm just really excited about my personal journey today and the opportunities that are out there. I pass it to you.
Oh, Monica, I love hearing your story. It's so rich, and you're a treasure. So just love to hear that, and I think the audience agrees. I'm Hannah Diop. I'm the founder and CEO of Sienna Naturals, and Sienna Naturals is a textured hair care brand. And really, what we're doing is we are centering textured hair consumers for the first time in clean innovation, clean product innovation, and clean technologies, with a focus on hair and scalp health. Our product, we are the first and only dermatologist tested and recommended textured hair care brand. And this is very important. I think this company understands the context of our consumers, because the people who operate this business and create the products are the consumers. My journey I always say I can't tell the story of this company without going back to my childhood. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was raised in a very naturally inclined family. We were members of community supported agriculture. We shopped at the local food cooperative store and volunteered there. We volunteered on our CSA farm. I had holistic kind of wellness ingrained in my lifestyle. So I saw a naturopathic doctor in addition to like a Western doctor, and was able to get help with a lot of sensitivities and allergies I had from a very young age. And so my mom's instinct was to go to the natural food store to buy not only our food, but also our personal care, including our toothpaste, our hair care, and skin care. And so we would get the product at home, and I would get in the shower and put in the shampoo, and did not feel good. I could tell that there's either something wrong with my hair or there's something wrong with this product. It's not meant for me. When I was young, I think I internalized that as there's something wrong with my hair inherently. And I think, society kind of reflects that back on us a lot as people with textured hair. But as I grew up, I came to understand this is actually an industry issue. And so the reason why I'm saying it's our second rebirth day is because I actually started this journey back in 2012. I was kind of moonlighting, if you can moonlight, as a consultant, working on Sienna Naturals and this concept, to really understand, why isn't there a clean product that actually works and serves us, that you can tell within moments of using it that it's meant for you, and that is sort of engineered to improve the health of our hair and scalp over time. And so started the business, started working on it, brought on a cosmetic chemist, and really started developing these formulas from scratch and testing them over a number of years. In 2019, I was very fortunate to partner with Issa Rae, who's a multi-hyphenate. I'm sure many of you know who she is, a multi-hyphenate writer, creator, producer. And one thing that's true about Issa is she loves to support Black creatives and get behind businesses that she believes in. And so she came on as a partner in Sienna Naturals. And in 2020, we relaunched the brand with her on board. And it's been a really incredible journey partnering with her, because she already had such a history from a storytelling perspective in this space. And so, yeah, that's sort of my story in a nutshell, where we are today.
I love it. And thank you for sharing, Monica and Hannah, the context of your journeys, and Monica too, the context of venture capital and women, and Hannah, incredible launch of your company. And thank you for taking us quickly through the steps of what it took to start a company. And since we have the context, Monica, more about the venture capital over the past decade and women, I wanted to jump, Hannah, to you, if you don't mind. Where were you in terms of Sienna Naturals business growth journey? And what happened to make you realize to seek outside venture funding?
Yeah, I think, I feel like I, in some ways, had a non-traditional venture journey. So, coming from consulting, I started with this really broad, kind of all-encompassing business plan. And then, you sort of start with the plan that you could execute as a Fortune 100 company, and then you realize you've got the budget of a one-person company, and so you've got to try to meet in the middle and figure it out. And what I decided to do was really focus on IP and product market fit first. And so Sienna Naturals, we own all of our own IP with the brand. And so I spent time, selling it in the markets. I lived in New York City at the time, and I would go and sell it in the farmers markets and in the markets on the weekends. And I started to get these repeat customers, which were great opportunities for me to get feedback. I also launched it in smaller stores. I tested natural food stores. I tested more high-end specialty beauty retailers, and just tried to understand, like, where are the volumes and what are the types of consumers that are purchasing this product, and what is the feedback. So I really created those early feedback loops with the consumer very early on. And, all the while was developing new product. And then I had an opportunity to participate in Target Takeoff. And so I think at that time, I sort of viewed as getting a big retailer on the hook would be kind of the proof that this business model worked. And that was around 2018. I was a participant in Target Takeoff. And coming out of Target Takeoff, I actually had 2 inbound requests from 2 pretty powerful women. One of them from a very strong VC in the beauty and hair care space, not VC, I'm sorry, private equity shop. And then another kind of independent investor. And I was like, how did these women find me? I'm like, okay, like, if they're interested and they see what I'm onto, and Target sees what I'm onto, then this must be the time. And so that sort of, and then, just sort of looking at, what's my strategy going to be? Because I've got this incredible product that I know is changing people's lives. But quite frankly, Sienna Naturals' entry point into the market, it sort of flips the entry point for textured hair on its head. A lot of textured hair care brands come in through styling, and we're coming in through hair health and starting at the scalp and hair and scalp health. And so, being able to partner with ISA to bring it to life was really just an incredible opportunity. But so that was sort of the point where I realized, okay, I need to be out here. I've got something worthy to invest in with the potential to grow fast.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I love how you took care of developing your product, taking great care of that, and protecting your IP, protecting your brand as well, working directly with your customers, seeing what works, what doesn't, customizing your product, your line, and then really using platforms like Target to get more people, a bigger audience interested, and people actually coming then to you, asking about you and learning more about you. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And Monica, so give us the insight from the investor side. What do you look for in a founder, in a company? What recommendations can you share with the women joining us today to how to prepare for outside capital?
Well, I could go on and on for hours, but I did take some time to kind of summarize it. So I'll give a general viewpoint, and then I'll kind of branch into why we invested Sienna, and perhaps as a case example and how it fits for us. Because number one, it's really about the fit between the company and the investor. There's some firms that will invest in biomed. There's some firms that invest in software. Some firms that invest in seed stage, very, very early stage. It's not, the product doesn't even exist. There are other firms that will invest, at the stage where, you validated the product and the market, but they need money to grow. There's also location is important, because many times you want to be near your companies. Sometimes you don't, but so there's that's the first question an investor looks for, is that does this company fit our overall criteria? And then what I suggest is for any investors to really look at management, because as long as you have strong management, whatever may come your way, they'll be able to have the brains and the passion and the ability to figure out a solution, whether it's a great opportunity that's really like a huge opportunity that you got to figure out how to attack it, or there's a pandemic that comes along and your supply chains become broken. So you really need a very strong management team that you feel that it can lead the company. Also, which Hannah brought up, is the intellectual property. That definitely comes next, because if it's something that's unique, that's special, that maybe not singular, but that is riding a trend, that you see that this is like the beginning of something new. I was in the early days of cable television, in the early days of the internet, in the early days, that this is going to be a huge market, which gets me to the next thing is like, investors look at what's the potential market, what's the size of the market, what kind of market is it? If it's a huge opportunity, well, hair, for example, hair care, it's huge, right? Everybody needs to take care of their hair all the time. My mother was a hairdresser, so there's going to be a lot of repeat business if it works well. But you look at the dynamics of the market, how big it is, even if, let's say, it's not that big, but it's very special, like Louis Vuitton, where you create a brand that is long lasting, but you really look to see if there's a fit for what your taste is and the size of check that you want to write. So that gets me into the whole business plan. So you look at all these market dynamics, but you want to see, does the business strategy work? What's the overall business model? What are the unit economics? And I've been listening to, previous speakers, and it's true, it's the business plan is like a story. You're telling a story. You're sharing with not only your investors, but with your employees and your shareholders and your strategic partners, what your underlying assumptions are. Is this going to be a high luxury brand? Is this going to be, a Costco brand? Is it something in between? How do you want to roll it out? Where are you going to make it? What are your plans for exporting? Because as Diane brought up this morning, firms that export, and typically female firms export more than men-led firms, but firms that export succeed. They grow faster. They have a higher return on investment. So, what we look at is sort of the whole package, which culminates in the overall business plan and the underlying assumptions that tell the story. And the reason why we were so excited about Sienna Naturals is that they're a little earlier for us, but we wanted to get in because we really believed that there was a market need, and also a potential to make it here in America, and also to export, because there's a lot of people with textured hair around the world. And so it really fit into a lot for our firm's key objectives. And then, clearly the management team is pedigree, they both highly educated, motivated women, so come what may, they'll be able to take advantage or prepare for whatever comes their way. So we're really excited to be working with Hannah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Hannah.
So what's the question for me?
Sorry. So thank you, Monica. I thought you were going to say something. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I really
sorry, my voice is crackly because I'm renovating my house, and so I was just in a lot of sawdust day after day, and it's just been taking a toll on my voice. So I apologize.
No worries. I hope you have some water right next to you. And thank you, Monica, for highlighting all those great insights on how to prepare, and that the focus is not only on the business plan, the market size, but also so much on the people that lead the companies and manage the companies, that their growth really relies on that. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to take advantage, Hannah, of your extraordinary background as a consultant before you founded your company. And when we spoke before, you mentioned that you use a SWOT analysis to develop your business plan and to prepare for your pitch sessions with investors. And I was hoping you could tell our audience a little bit more about that and share your insights.
Absolutely. I also attended business school too. I went to Wharton Business School, which is, I believe, where I originally learned about the SWOT analysis. And it's a 4-letter acronym. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I love to share this in these types of forums. I love this trick because I think that a SWOT analysis is such a handy tool that you can use honestly at any stage of the business. You can use it before you've made the product. You can help design your company strategy using that. And essentially how you make it real. How does this exercise actually become meaningful to you is the first two, you sort of make this 4-quadrant box, and then you put your strengths and weaknesses at the top. Your strengths are those differentiating factors that are intrinsic and internal to your business. And so the top 2 buckets, strengths and weaknesses, they're really more internal truths about your company. And it's best to think of them vis-a-vis your competitors or who you see as the competitor. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like, there's no competition, but there is a competition. Like what is your customer using now instead of you? And what is and it's really important to, if you can, sometimes it's hard to understand who your customer views as your competition, not just who you think is your competition. So those are all like, it's very helpful to be completely honest with yourself when you're doing this as well, right? So these are all sort of internal intrinsics to your brand, to your business, the strengths and the weaknesses. And so the strengths are like, what do we have that no one else has, right? I mentioned a couple already. Dermatologist tested and approved. We own our IP. It's Black woman created, and our scientist is Black and the founder is Black. Those are all like things that are very unique and special to Sienna Naturals. And like your weaknesses are also kind of, where are your vulnerability points relative to your competitors? One thing, when you own your IP and you conduct a lot of testing on each product, you need to bake that into the timeline to launch, right? Because if we have a process where we send it out to consumers, they have a chance to give feedback, we reformulate potentially based on that, and it's iterative, and we have to dermatologist test everything and, do all these other tests to our product, it might take us longer than some of our competitors to launch a product. So that's an example of a weakness. And then the opportunities and the threats are external factors. So what are factors that are external to your brand? So there could be an opportunity like, there's a new initiative by I'm making this up. Like there could be an initiative to get women-owned businesses that are making, eco-friendly products to export more or something. And there's something we can take advantage of that will help our business grow. That's external to us. A lot of times there's these like external opportunities and threats. They can be like new laws. Like maybe there could be a new law that's passing that says, the FDA is going to get more strict on ingredient. Now we would be in good shape there. So that would actually be an opportunity, but like what I'm saying. So this, I love to do this exercise. I try to do this at least once a year for Sienna Naturals because I always find something new, because honestly, it changes too. It changes over time. Like look at the current market that we're in. This is very different right now, like consumer sentiments and what Wall Street is doing is very different from where we were a year ago. You look at beauty in 2020 when everyone was inside and skincare was like blowing through the roof. And now, people are more interested in wearing makeup again. They're going back outside. So you always want to make sure it's a great way to get sort of a snapshot of the entire business at once. It's easy to do. Anyone can do it. And so that's always my go-to recommendation. So I hope you guys find it helpful. And I think like if you're a tech company or if you're a consumer company, it's equally useful.
Mm-hmm. Hannah, and this is terrific. And may I ask you a follow-up questions relating to the SWOT analysis? I love that you mentioned look at your competitors or look at who your customers think might be your competitors view them as your competitors. Did you also look at companies that you admire when you're doing the analysis?
Yeah, for sure. I think companies that are relevant that you think are where you would aspire to be, like brands that are doing really well. they can help, because what this really, what the way this becomes useful is that it should help create a roadmap for you, take action on, right? So what are you doing to make sure that your strengths are known to your customers and known to your prospects? What are you doing to address your weaknesses and protect your business from those, or make sure, your competitor isn't taking advantage of you in some way? And what opportunities, what are you going to do to go take advantage of them? So it kind of, it's an action oriented tool.
Super. Thank you for sharing that. And I would love to go back, Monica and Hannah, question more for you, Monica, but to just to better articulate the type of cadence and boundaries. What is the right vibe to have with an investor to ensure a meaningful and strategic relationship that adds value to both business operations and future fundraising?
I've been thinking about that question since you asked me when we were preparing for this discussion. And it really is a case-by-case basis. I just could not really give you any better answer, because, you've seen situations where an investor, regardless whether it's male or female, that is really not only, writing the check, but really involved in the day-to-day. Take Steve Jobs, when he started Apple. And, so his first, investor, forgetting his name, but anyway, was really involved in the day-to-day operations. But as a rule, when a company gets to a certain size, past, let's say, in the garage making something, but you really have a real board of directors, which that, technically speaking, as a institutional investor, which we are, we get preferred stock, and we would sit on the board, and then we would discuss, highlights, challenges, numbers at the monthly board meeting, or whatever we decided in the bylaws of the company that we would have a board meeting. And then we would vote. And typically for certain stage companies, it really is the majority shareholder that makes the final decision, but the board members really can be advisors and add value. But that you can add another layer where you make introductions. So for example, we really would love, do Tracy, my partner, Tracy Gray, through Terry Hatch, we've been connected with you all, Department of Commerce. We see their opportunities for not just Sienna Naturals and Hana, but a few other companies that we have already invested in. So there's the networking aspect, that we can not only make introductions to people that can be strategic partners, that can be customers, that can be suppliers. That's part of our mission as the 22 Fund. A lot of investors like to do that, to really help the company go to the next level, because that helps us, right? It helps in the actual value of the company. The more successful the company is, the more successful the investor is. But it's different than being an employee, and it's different than being a boss. It's more of a collaboration that is on a case-by-case basis. It depends on, each side's interest, willingness, and maybe necessity on how often they work together. So it's an interesting dynamic. And it's fluid. It depends on what comes up. I'm sure there were a lot of boards that really helped their companies that were, let's say, at private companies that were already, making, let's say, at least 10 million in sales a year, helped them during the pandemic with their supply chains. They sort of probably rolled up their sleeves and even probably showed up at the warehouses, because you want your investment to survive. You don't want your investment to fail. You want to, make sure that it's protected. It's your fiduciary duty as an institutional investor to make sure that your investments succeed.
Thank you for that. And I really appreciate that it's so nuanced and so dependent on the relationship. And I love to hear, Monica, how you shared how deep it can go in terms of creating a very big global network for a company, to rolling up your sleeves, and
I've actually done that. I've actually done that just a few years ago, but there was one company that that had a shipping issue, and the warehouse was down here near Los Angeles airport. And yeah, I went down there and I saw that they were shorthanded. So why not? I go to the gym, might as well lift boxes.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And Zara, I think we're up almost to the Q&A period. So before we jump in, Zara, one more question for Monica and Hannah. You do so much. You have so many roles in your lives, and you're growing companies, you're building companies. And so I wanted to ask, because we have so many women on the phone doing multiple things in their lives, what do you do to take care of yourselves through these journeys?
Well, I'll go first because, as I said before, age over beauty. I think part of the reason why I really make a point to take care of myself is really how I was brought up. So before I got into investment, venture capital, I was an entrepreneur. So I knew that I could always make my own schedule. So that sometimes hurts you because you work crazy hours, but at the same time, I could go to my son's basketball games and, parent teachers association, go do a yoga class, have a social life. And then as an investor, it's the same sort of thing. Every day is different. So I can really provide my own schedule and, make sure I take care of myself. Both my parents, as I said, were immigrants from Europe. So very, very much in line that it's a balance between work and family. So family is very important.
Very good. And Monica, that was spoken like a true operator, getting in there and rolling up your sleeves and solving, like physically. I love that. I could so relate. So I think for me, I think it's really important. So, it's kind of tough. I wish I had more of the instinct to block my time for personal. I've been trying to get better and better at it because look, I didn't wear glasses 2 years ago. I wear glasses now. I feel like I need another prescription. I think the grind can be very taxing. And I would say most things I was conditioned to believe, especially going into corporate America, working in that consulting culture, doing the business school thing, it's like, you grind until, I don't know to what end. Sometimes it can just get a little too much. So also, there's going to be ups and downs. That's absolutely, that comes with the territory, right? You're going to have big wins, you're going to have some losses, and you need to be resilient because you need to take all of that in and be able to work with it and be able to be dynamic and fluid in your job. And you're also in charge of people, and you're the lowest common denominator in the office. So however I feel is how my team is going to feel, right? So I do have some disciplines that are self-care. I do go to yoga, I work out. I find that like exercise and yoga is more of like, for me, a moving meditation really helps to kind of move the stress through my body and make me feel replenished. I feel great. I also I played a lot of sports growing up. I was on swim team, and that's a very intense sport. And so I think when you have that childhood, you have to continue it as an adult, or it's not great. Like you got to get your exercise.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So I find that that's really important. So I'm pretty disciplined about that. I make sure I get that in. I also think sleep is very important. So I get my sleep in, and I have time blocked with my children. But I do rely on a lot of people to help me take care of them too. And so, in some ways, look, I'll be honest, I haven't seen my child play soccer yet, and he's been playing for a while, but I'll get there at some point. He's not on a team where he's playing games, but like his little practices in the evening, I feel bad. I haven't seen those kind of. So, I would say I'm a work in progress. I definitely aspire to get, I think, more vacation time where I'm actually like leaving my space and my city so I can get perspective. Because I think that's also, you got to get out in order to gain the perspective. You have to get out, remove yourself from where you are too. So a bit of a work in progress, but I think the things I do have in place help with that sort of resiliency. And, you know, because that's important. You got to be happy. You got to be, I'm doing what I love, right? Like, and so I need to make sure that I have those kind of disciplines built in to keep that going. That's my dog.
Go
Is it
ahead.
okay? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
about to insert some questions. First question is a manufacturing question, so I think this might be for Hannah. I invented a uniquely designed sustainable sanitary pad with three-dimensional cores for heavy menstrual and a better fit. I conducted 2 successful consumer testing with good feedback. The problem I'm having is finding a manufacturing company that can make the product because of the three-dimensional cores. The sanitary pads were handmade for testing, which was very expensive, about $20 a pad. To this day, women come up to me and ask me when sanitary pads will be available. Can you give me some advice on this type of situation?
Thanks, Gretchel. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I can totally relate to this problem. I think, you know, look, you can tell I love shoulder pads, right? When I first set out to create Sienna Naturals, I put on my shoulder pads and I went to a trade show and I just like walked right up to contract manufacturers and said, I've got this great idea for textured hair. And we, you know, none of the ingredients you're using today are going to work. And I just got the door shut in my face, you know, many, many, many times, which is partly why we ended up creating our own IP. So I think you're probably on a similar path. Like you're going to create something that you can own. You should probably start with a patented route or you know, see if this is something that you could actually patent yourself, because I think, you know, there's a number of different ways to go about it. Number one, you could, you know, maybe you start these things simultaneously, but I would say, seeing if it is something that you can somehow protect if you're putting all this, if you have to develop some new technology to invest in it, because you might be able to, if you have something patentable, find a partner who's willing to invest in creating the equipment that you need to make it. And maybe it's just one partner at first. I mean, I found, you know, the contract manufacturing partners that I found, the very personal relationships ended up blossoming out of that because these people invested in me and my vision. And so I think you have to sort of see what's in it for them though, right? So I think that's kind of what that'd be my quick advice. And I'm sure Monica can add to this too, but that's what I would say.
No, I think you're right on. Trade shows, definitely, you have to go where, you know, where the, you know, where all the people in that industry sector gather, and just start networking, put those shoulder pads on and take a breath. And, you know, that's one thing I think you just have to really be brave in the beginning, and always, I should say, and not worry what people think, you know, and just go forth and try to find those partners within that pond that you're swimming in that you can work with. And it takes a while to develop those relationships. It's not overnight.
Great. So my next question is for both Monica and Hannah. I'm starting a business relating to activated carbon supporting green energy and environment. The product is used in air and water purification mainly. I'm looking for seed capital, about 500 to 750K. Can I get some pointer whom to approach?
I'll start. I think we had some great people here today. You know, We Funder is a good one. This is just some great sort of crowdfunding apps. There's definitely incubators to accelerators like Y Combinator that exist that I would suggest reaching out to. Depending upon where you're based, a lot of universities have support systems. That's the reason why Silicon Valley started, was because, you know, the universities that, you know, are there. So yeah, I would definitely go and look in the people that are known to fund startup seed capital and make applications then locally, because there's definitely hubs around the United States that, you know, that have a aggregation of these accelerators and incubators.
And to Monica, if I may add to that, there's also SBA has SBIR, STTR program, where they provide non-equity capital, especially for seed stage companies to help develop their product. And there is, I believe, a clean tech focus to that. So it's worth taking a look at that program. And on their website, you can find a local contact or work with one of our local offices. I'm not sure where you're based at, I'm sorry, but we'll be happy to connect you as well.
Great. My next question's here. Hannah, what types of funding did you utilize as your company grew? In parentheses, grant, loans, angels, funds, etc.
Yeah, I've done a combination of bootstrapping, credit. We are now in a position where we can get loans, like working capital loans, based off revenue, recurring revenue. There's some sophisticated products that will sort of plug into your Shopify and lend you funds. I know of one specifically focusing on marketing investment, one that you can sort of use as you want. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the certifications of these companies. The nonprofit lenders, are they?
To the CDFIs?
CDFIs. CDFIs is what you want to look into, right? Because what we find in the conundrum we run into is like when you're in growth mode and you're not generating a profit necessarily, it's very difficult for traditional lenders to justify lending you money. And so what, and so you can find people who will lend you money based on your revenue, but a lot of those folks want these terms and interest rates that don't make any sense. Like so you end up sort of weighing the cost, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. But those nonprofit, can you repeat it again? Sorry.
The CDFIs, yeah.
CDFIs is what I would advise you to look into as well. And then of course, angels and now institutional investors.
So to add to that, CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, and I just put the link in the chat box so you can locate the CDFIs available in your area or across the nation. Also just want to thank Maria for putting in the link for the SBIR and also the clean tech information in there.
Yeah, that was very helpful. I also failed to mention angel funders. There are, high net wealthy individuals, either together as a group or individually, it support on entrepreneurs, that will, from an equity standpoint, or through a convertible loan, where they don't peg the valuation of your company right away. They'll wait until there's an institutional investor coming in, but these angels are interested in getting in as early as possible.
Great. So I think we've exhausted the questions, but I do have one last question to close this up. Now, for both Monica and Hannah, if you can go back in time and see what would be something that you wish you would have done earlier. Is that like some sort of like, kind of like an advice to everyone that we have here?
I'll start. I wish I would have fundraised earlier. A little bit. Like, I think like I've been seeing around the corner in this industry for a long time. And I'm like, yeah, just having more confidence to go out and, sometimes I think I just want to analyze everything to the 10th degree. And, when you're seeing something, you got to strike and we do. And I've been successful in fundraising and I'm proud of where the business is now, but I feel like I could have been more aggressive.
I really don't have an answer to that. That's kind of, I'm like, okay, what would have I done earlier? I'm not quite sure.
Or from what you've seen with the companies that you've assisted and funded, right? Like, what would be something that would be useful that, oh, I wish this company did this, such a great product, but here's an advice.
Well, definitely picking up the phone, lots of times we hem and haw, whether it's raising money, whether it's trying to close a deal, with an advertiser to your television channel. But, picking up the phone many, many times. This is even before, the internet, where you're afraid to bother them. that's the thing, is just, that's my advice, is that there people are in business to do business, and so that's their job. And so, it's to just be brave and, send that email, pick up the phone, don't be afraid to walk up to somebody and talk to them at a conference, or ask the question in a Zoom meeting. It's one thing is that we I think people, not just women, they're men too, that are just too shy. They don't want to bother you,
Yeah, don't get scared. I mean, what's the thing that you can lose? Nothing, right? But more to gain.
Exactly. And I think we're all guilty of it. A lot of it's depending on our mood, the kind of day that we had, the attitude of the person that we're talking to, but carry on.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to spotlight myself real quick. So this is such a great panel. What a great way to conclude our Pink Room Ready to Grow session today. Again, happy rebirthday to Sienna Naturals.
Happy
We have
birthday.
a link in the chat box for anyone that would like to go through the Sienna Naturals website. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists, as I learned so many new things today. For me, as a woman, it's both enlightening and encouraging to see other women across the nation share their experiences, providing sincere advice and support. And it sounds cheesy, but it's honestly inspiring. It's amazing to see women to women learning from each other and even connecting. So I saw that in the chat box through the whole day. I love hearing everyone's stories, their journey from different parts of the country, different backgrounds and different industries. And I mean, as we know, we've heard this many times today, over 30% of businesses in the country are women-owned. And no one can deny the impact women-owned businesses have on our economy. But despite the stats, women-owned businesses still face a gender gap in access to funding. And that's why we hosted today's program, to facilitate access to finance for women by providing information and awareness, and to really encourage you. We want to let you know that as women business owners, you're not alone. Don't be afraid. Just go on and just spearhead it, and that there are resources and support available. It's such a pleasure for my organization, the Expert Finance Assistance Center of Washington, to co-host this event along with the U.S. Commercial Service through the Global Diversity Export Initiative, the W Marketplace, and the Small Business Administration. We will be sharing today's recording for both breakout rooms, so keep an eye out for a follow-up email. Let us know if you have any questions. I do see there's 3 more Q&As in the Q&A box just now. I'll look through those, I'll save those, and then we hope to answer those questions via email. And thank you all, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great life.
Have a great life, a great afternoon, great rest of the week.
Go for it.